The past decade has offered the biggest test to Ethiopia's and Egypt's diplomatic relations. The two countries have been contending over Ethiopia's construction of a dam along the Nile. The Nile is the longest river in the world. It has two main tributaries, the White Nile and the Blue Nile. The White Nile starts from Lake Victoria, while the Blue Nile starts from Lake Tana in Ethiopia. The two rivers merge in Khartoum, Sudan, and become the Nile proper, which proceeds north through Egypt and into the Mediterranean Sea. The Nile has now become the center of the ongoing dispute between Ethiopia and Egypt. In 2010, Ethiopia set an ambitious goal of becoming a middle-income country by 2025. The country launched a 15-year growth and transformation plan. The plan identified the energy sector as key to economic growth. Despite the country's energy potential, Ethiopia had historically struggled with energy shortages and load shedding, hindering business development. The country had an installed capacity of 2,000 megawatts, which covered less than 40% of its 100 million plus population. Under the new plan, the rate of coverage would increase to 60% by 2015 and 90% by 2020. To achieve this, the country would construct multiple dams along its major rivers. One of these dams would be the $5 billion Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, constructed along the Blue Nile near Sudan's border. The dam will become the largest hydroelectric power plant in Africa and seventh in the world, with a capacity of 6.4 gigawatts. Ethiopia believes the dam will be the backbone of its economic growth. It will help stabilize the national grid, providing consistent and reliable power, boosting its industrial growth. The country hopes to export its energy surplus to neighboring countries including Sudan and Egypt. The dam has become a sign of pride and a source of unity among Ethiopians from all walks of life. Ethiopians home and abroad claim part ownership of the dam as they funded the project through government bonds and donations. However, downstream in Egypt, the mood is different. The country believes that the dam will reduce water levels reaching it, depriving its population's everyday water needs, especially during times of drought. Throughout history, the country has relied on the Nile for most of its water needs. 95% of its population lives within 20 kilometers of the riverbank. Its agriculture depends entirely on irrigation from the Nile. In short, the dam is an existential threat to the Nile, and without the Nile, there is no Egypt. Caught up in the middle is Sudan. The country is weighing the dam's promise of cheap electricity and flooding control versus the potential reduction of water levels that could potentially affect its hydroelectric installations.
شعب الأورمو 35% من سكان أثيوبيا ولديهم جبهة تحرير اسمها جبهة تحرير أورمو، لأن الجبهة الداخلية لأثيوبيا في منتهى الضعف، جبهة هشة، وكذلك جبهة تحرير الأوجاديل يمكن دعمهم.
Egypt has publicly opposed the project since the beginning and has attempted to stop construction multiple times. In 2013, Egyptian politicians appeared on television discussing the option of internally destabilizing Ethiopia and military intervention. Since then, Egypt has embarked on the diplomatic route to try and find a resolution in its favor. The country is pinning its hopes on treaties that were signed during the colonial era. In 1929, Great Britain, while representing Sudan and its upstream colonies, signed an agreement with Egypt granting it veto power over any construction projects on the Nile River or any of its tributaries. In 1959, another treaty was signed allocating 66% of the water to Egypt, 22% to Sudan, while assuming 12% was lost through evaporation. These treaties did not include other upstream countries, including Ethiopia, whose highlands supply most of the water in the Nile. Egypt continues to defend these colonial-era agreements and believes no upstream projects affecting the flow of the Nile should be undertaken without its approval. At this point, the dam is nearing completion. Egypt has shifted its focus to the filling of the reservoir behind the dam. Ethiopia wants to fill the reservoir in 4 years to expedite its energy production. Egypt wants the filling to take place over 7 years. Ethiopia filled the reservoir last in 2020 despite protests from Egypt and Sudan. A second crucial filling of the reservoir is scheduled for July this year. Egypt and Sudan want the filling to be delayed until a binding agreement on the dam operations is reached. Recent negotiations held in Kinshasa concluded with no resolution. Sudan and Egypt reported that Ethiopia rejected a proposal to include mediators from the United States, European Union, and the United Nations. Ethiopia maintains the talks should be led by the African Union. Egypt historically has always controlled the Nile. Now it's nervous that Ethiopia will have too much control. They can simply decide when and how much water they release downstream. Ethiopia's economic needs for the dam are valid. Egypt and Sudan will also benefit from a constant flow of water, less sedimentation, and reduced flooding. These mutual benefits should form the basis of establishing a fair joint resolution. The countries must sign a new inclusive treaty that recognizes each country's needs today. It's evident the need and the demand of the Nile waters have changed since the colonial era treaties were signed. Anything other than a peaceful resolution will be detrimental to the three countries and the region at large.